Right, what have we got here? Right, now I don't know how to pronounce this, but I'm going to call it the Fitorch or the Fitorch, whatever. I presume that's obviously torch, so however you want to pronounce it. Now, a quick shout out to Jimmy Mac. So, hi Jimmy Mac. He's a very good helper on the channel, especially for information and stuff. And he pointed this specific handset out, which I was quite interested because it only uses one of the small cr123 cells, which if I've got one knocking about, there's one. So, which are the tiny cells. However, it's going to pump out, where is it? About, there you go, to about 1,000 lumens. So 1,000 lumens from this, your battery isn't going to last long, but it's handy to have that in that form factor. If you remember, it's still one of my favourite, the M3 from On The Road. I love this thing. It's not just the tint that I love, I just love the fact that it's cheap. It's got everything you need, magnetic tail cap, the lot. Really like it, and that runs on the same battery, and I could consider this an everyday carry. I just wish there was some drilled holes on here, because that lanyard hole is a bit small, but never mind, I'm nitpicking now. But anyway, so let's get back on with what I'm supposed to be reviewing. So it's time for an unboxing, because remember, everybody loves an unboxing. So let's get in here. Can we get in yet? Yeah, that's it. Let's destroy this box. Let's get that out of the way. Okay, now this looks quite feature packed. Even though it's a small flashlight, it looks like they put in a lot of effort. And I wasn't aware of this manufacturer. I didn't recognize the name. Well, that's good to see, because a lot of these Chinese manufacturers, you've got to play the guessing game. Let's play how to work out the flashlight, because you don't get any instructions. But this one seems to come with a full instruction book here. Okay, I'm going to memorize this. There's the specifications and the chart. Now I always take that with a pinch of salt, these distances. 150 meters max, yeah, maybe. IPX8, but don't worry, I'll go through all of these specs. And it's from Shenzhen Fitorch, however you pronounce that. So one of the good Chinese manufacturers, and it has built-in charging, which I like. But like I say, we'll go through all of those. So if you want to pause it and read that, you can, but I'm not going to scrutinise that too much. I've just memorised it, so I'll put that to one side. Now, what else do you get in the pack here? Now, this looks like a holster. So again, hey, pretty good, pretty good. It's not a particularly fantastic holster, but, you know, the problem I have with these holsters, what else is in here? All sorts. The problem I have is when they're soft, you can accidentally turn the button on, and that's not a problem if it's a non-side switch one, but this is, see, it's got a side switch. Now that can accidentally be knocked, but it seems to have quite good travel on that button, and by travel I mean the distance it takes to engage the button, so that's looking pretty good. Let's go through this anyway. So I'm not impressed with that, you know, it'll do the job, but I'm more likely to put it in my pants pocket than use that. Okay, so we'll put that to one side with the box. What's this? Right, this must be, yeah, this is the charging cable. So it's that looks like a micro USB. Yeah, micro USB, and there's a standard USB, so you can charge it without having to take the battery out and charge it. Now, in regards to onboard charging, it generally makes a flashlight bigger because you have to incorporate that charging mechanism in there. But a lot of the manufacturers now are being able to squeeze that smaller and smaller and smaller, so it's becoming less of an issue. However, I've noticed a few people on forums have been complaining, saying, well, inbuilt charging is fine on something like an OLED, but on a cheap manufactured thing, it's going to easily overcharge your batteries. Yeah, they've got a point. It's going to be rougher on the batteries. Faster charging is generally rougher on the batteries, but if you get them from a decent manufacturer, I'm not talking about eBay, I'm talking direct from the manufacturer like Nightcore or Olight or Samsung, LG, Sanyo cells, Anyloop, things like that, you're going to be okay. They're built to a good specification, so you shouldn't need to worry on that. As long as, always check your cells, you don't want any perforations or damage or signs of leakage or anything like that. Immediately discard the cell, because lithium ions can be quite dangerous. So there's just a little proviso for you there. So there's the charging cable. Put that to one side. Now what's this? Oh, nice. So unlike the S2 convoy that I got where they never gave me a clip, this actually comes with a clip. So that's nice to see. If I just struggled to get this out, I couldn't find my way out of a paper bag, you see, so it feels quite decent. In fact, that is quite decent quality, yeah. And it's deep carry, so that's nice to see, and because it's non-closed, it's reversible. So let's just try that. So you could put that on like that, if I can get it on. Well, that's interesting, it doesn't even fit. I must be doing something wrong, or it's not reversible and it has to go on this way. Right, I presume it's not reversible then, unless I'm doing something wrong. Now this does have bumps, so maybe it has to be like that. Okay, so that's okay. You could put that on your cap, and then where you look that fires. Although it's going to be pretty heavy once you get the battery, and I would rather use something smaller, like you know, the tiny little Chloris. You could definitely use that in a cap. That's even with a battery, and that doesn't feel very heavy. You can just get away with it with big caps, with stuff like the BLF ER16, but just. Okay, so I just want to try that again in case I'm doing something wrong here. So let's pry this off. Get off. Right, so if I want to put it in a reverse fashion, there it is going on. So I did something wrong there. That's not the manufacturer's fault. I think what it is, I've probably had it at one of these peaks of this. Now the reason they put this pattern in is to stop them rolling on a surface. It stops them rolling, so that's fair enough. So we'll keep that on just for now, and you can spin that round, that's no problem. Okay, and that button feels quite nice, and if you look at the detail on the button, there you go, you can see it has a circular engraved pattern, so that gives you a little bit of grip. That actually helps with what I call button fumble. I sometimes get button fumble with this. If I'm out and about and I'm concentrating on something else, trying to find the bloody button, if you take that out of your pocket and you've got it the wrong way around and you go, well, I can't find it, where is it? Ah, okay, now I know where it is. It's a nuisance. So that's one problem with side clickers. I never get that with a tail clicker, especially for tactical things. So that's why I prefer tail clickers. So back to this one though. You can see it's got heat sinks on there, and I've gone over it before, but I'll go over it quickly. The purpose of a heatsink is obviously there's the housing of the flashlight, and then the light emitting diode is producing heat as well as light. Heat is just a side effect of the inefficiency of its ability to change one energy form into another, so the heat is dissipated into the air. Now surface area dictates how much energy you can dissipate and how quickly. So the more surface area, the quicker you can get rid of it. So for example, instead of having a flat surface like that where energy is just dissipated like that, if you bump it, that's a crude drawing obviously, but if you bump it like a car's radiator, if you were to pull that out straight, in the same amount of space you've got more surface area, so you're able to get rid of heat quicker. So it's nice to see that, and they're not just superficial heat sinks, they would actually have a purpose, and they're in the right area. If you notice, they're exactly in line with the light emitting diode there, so that's where the heat's going to be coming from. Obviously it's going to be projected out there as well because of the reflector. And it's got what's called, I mean, some people say this is tactical and offensive, but this here, it's supposed to be tactical, so you could use that as a weapon. I don't personally consider that to be an offensive weapon in any way whatsoever. It's not designed or altered to be offensive. To be honest, having been in a few fights, the last thing you're worried about is using a flashlight to hammer on someone like that. You're already concentrating on trying not to get strangled to death and punching people, so how useful that would be, I don't know. Probably if you'd been on a self-defense course specifically designed to teach you how to use that, maybe then. But other than that, I don't see the purpose. But this is looking pretty good. Nice in the hand, nice size. So let's have a size comparison. There's the torch there. And there's the classic Olight S2 baton there. So size-wise, it's a little shorter. So it's quite long actually, but that's probably because of the added ability to charge. You're gonna, you know, it's gonna. This takes exactly the same battery, but look at the size difference. Big difference. Although to be fair, this has a slightly bigger reflector, so okay, that's fair enough. So you're going to lose a bit of space for that, and the button takes up quite a lot of space. Look at the size. But heat sinks on this are more superficial, whereas they are bigger. I suppose it needs that because it's outputting quite a lot from such a small battery. And there is your charging port, which unfortunately looks like a male penis, but okay, that's a design choice. That has nothing to do with me. There's your charging port. That looks fine. I'll test that later on to make sure that it charges, but I'm not going to bore you with plugging it in now because I'll have to find a battery anyway. Now there's a reflector. Now it's a smooth reflector. That's quite interesting. A lot of manufacturers now tend to go for what is called an orange peel reflector, so you can see the difference. So a smooth reflector here, orange peel here. Now can you see what I mean by orange peel? The actual surface is indented. So what's the purpose of that? I'll quickly go over it. I know people are probably sick of me going over this, but for people who don't know or who are new to the channel, I do like to take the time to explain these things, because when you're buying something, you want to know what you're getting. So here's a normal reflector like this. This is a smooth reflector. So the light emitting diode is here, and light is produced in this direction. The majority of it is going to come straight from the LED, and the rest that bounces around is going to come out, and the pattern when that hits is like this. Generally, and this is a generalization, this is what you get. You get a spot which has most of the energy, and then you have spill here which has some of the energy, and there's a marked difference. That's very intense and that's less intense. One way around that, quite a clever way actually, which Olight use, they use, when you can see that there, they use a smooth reflector, but what they do is, there's the reflector there, and it's smooth, but the piece of glass that would normally go over isn't flat, it has a bump. So light that comes out here is transmitted in a generally straightforward manner, but when it hits this, it's refracted and bounces about, and it smooths out. So it smooths this out actually. So you get this sort of effect. It does a pretty good job. I'm quite impressed. It does a similar job without having to use up too much space to a orange peel reflector, which is my preferred option. An orange peel reflector has a bumpy surface. What happens is, it's obviously an oversimplification, but I'm trying to keep it simple. There's your main beam, and the rest is bouncing around, and it spills in a more natural pattern. So instead of getting something like that, it's sort of like that. It's smoother. It's a smoother dissipation of the lumens. Okay, let's get rid of that, and you'll be happy to know that's probably the end of the art lesson for today. So we'll put that to one side. Back to this. Right, what have I got here? Now this is the lanyard. Now where does that fit? So that's, do you know what? Top marks. Look how big that hole is for the lanyard. I know it might be nitpicking, but look, I could easily thread that through whilst I'm even using a camera. Well done, Fitorch or whatever you're called. Well done, because things like the Olight, and a lot of them, look at the size of that. It's bloody ridiculous trying to get it through. But to be fair to Olight, their lanyard actually comes with almost like a pin attachment, so it just goes straight through. So they've thought of that, but instead of doing that, just make the hole bigger. I don't know what the problem is. So within that, this should have a magnetic tail cap. So let's check that. That feels pretty, yeah, that feels pretty solid. As you can see, that's not coming off. I mean, it'll be heavy with a battery, but yeah, that feels pretty solid. Pretty good. Sometimes I do argue that that's more of a gimmick, but once you get used to it, you can use it. I've used it on railings. I've used it when working on the car, in the garage, things like that. So you do find a use for that eventually. It's just whether it's an added bonus anyway. So let's get this open and see what we've got. Now I don't think this is a tube design, so no, you can't take that off and have a central tube. It just comes off the end. So let's have a look. Let's see what we've got in here. Now that's interesting. So there's the washer, the rubber washer. Now to me that looks like a 1.5 mil. So nice to see, and it's greased. In fact, the threads, are they greased? Yeah, the threads are greased as well. Nice to see. That increases the effectiveness of the waterproofing. And this is an IPX8, which means it should be waterproof down to 2 meters. That's quite a long thread as well. That's nice to see. So, oh, that's nice. Branded PCB there. And this cup design for taking the positive terminal of the battery reminds me of what JetBeam do, and I quite like it. Now let's see what the machining looks like. Machining looks okay, no rough bits. Yeah, nice job, looks good. The PCB looks brilliant. I presume that's a gold coating to prevent corrosion and increase transfer of energy. Yeah, that looks good. I like that. That looks clean, tidy, well manufactured. I wasn't expecting that, and you can't get in any further without removing this and to get the driver and what have you. But that's interesting to see. I'll be interested to see how this works with the smooth reflector as well, because like I say, I prefer either a bump lens design like the Olight or a orange peel reflector. Just my personal preference, it doesn't really matter. Okay, so that looks great. So I'm quite pleased so far. So now you might think this is a bit weird, but I like to feel the springs to see how heavy duty they are. Yeah, that's pretty heavy duty, because some of them come with rubbish springs that, you know, looks like they're off a doll's bed or something. They wouldn't even, a caterpillar goes over and they're squashed down, they're useless. So I'm getting grease all over here, but I don't mind that. That increases the waterproofing. And in fact, there's a spare O-ring, and as you can see, that's quite a hefty one. Feels pretty good, pretty pliable. Yeah, nice to see that. I know some manufacturers will give you 2 spares, but one's enough. The whole purpose of giving you spares is, if this isn't fitted properly or it slips up, people quickly do screw it in and it shears and rips the O-ring, so you need to put another one on to keep your waterproofing. So this is fresh off the charger, so it is an R, which just stands for rechargeable, cr123, and it should be about 650, yeah, 650 milliamp hours. That's about the going rate. I mean, I do laugh when you buy batteries, you'll see something in this form factor. Bearing in mind this is a Sanyo cell being put out by Nightcore. You'll see a similar size and they'll say, right, 1,000 or 1,600 milliamp hours. That's a lie. I don't know how they're fitting that into this, unless it's a non-rechargeable and they're trying to rip you off. I don't know, but that's a matter for them to be dealt with. So we'll pop this in here, and that magnet's nice and strong. You can feel it pulling the battery in. Now I'm not happy about this. Why is it rattling about? Look. Maybe that's why it has the cup design. So we'll see if that works. That cup design will take the cell and place it correctly. So let's see. Yeah, there's no rattle whatsoever. That's absolutely fine. Okay, so I quite like this. I'm going to take this off just for a second, just to make life easier for showing you the different modes. If I can get it off. I've lost all of my strength. I must get back to the gym. Get off. There you go. I'm interested to see how much that's taking the paint off. A little bit, but that's to be expected. That's a problem. What, you know, they'll say this is anodization, military standard, and you take the clip off and it comes straight off, and you think, well, that's not much of a military standard, but it's perfectly. I'm not going to have a go, because that happens with most manufacturers. It's just part of how it works. So I'll pop that to one side. We'll move that. Right, let's go through the different modes here, and I'll explain some of the specs. So the model number is ER16, and it's a CRI XP, I think it's a -L2 LED, which is fine. It's not like a high CRI or anything like that, it's a standard. But it is CRI, which is decent. Now I know there was some talk of some fake CRIs doing the rounds, but I presume they'll just be on different emitter boards that you can buy rather than on flashlights themselves, but I will keep an eye out for that. It'll output 1,000 lumens on turbo, but at that battery size I wouldn't do that for long. And it uses the cr123 batteries. Micro USB rechargeable magnetic tail cap, IPX8. IPX8 is excellent. That means generally, as long as this is well tightened and you've got the washer in there, if you drop it in water up to about 2 meters for, leave it for 10 minutes, take that out, it's going to be waterproofed and fine. Now I don't know how they've managed that, because, and I've discussed this before, one of the reasons I generally don't get flashlights with built-in charging is because you've just introduced a water entry point. So how can this be IPX8 if that's there? I don't know if I would trust that. It's very flimsy. So I don't know if this, they're saying, hey, who am I to argue? They are saying this is IPX8. So I'm just telling you what the manufacturer said. Okay, so don't shoot me when it doesn't work. Right, let's go through some of the modes. And of course it does have a 2 meter drop rating, so if you drop that from 2 meters on concrete, you're generally going to be okay. Any further and you're asking for trouble, but that is quite a deep ring there, so the glass should be okay. And it feels pretty solid. In fact, it feels very solid. It feels almost like a jet beam, nice and solid. Right, let's go through the modes. Now I think this works in reverse, so it goes to high first and then cycles to low rather than the other way around, which I presume that's so you can instantly get a turbo. That's my only thought of why that would be. But we'll go through the different modes now, and there is an electronic lockout. So let's go through the modes now. So we'll turn this on, and there should be, if I hold this down there, moonlight mode. So low. Now that's 3 lumens. I think that's probably a little bit too high on something like the M3. They have a low mode, which is about half a lumen or 1 lumen. I mean, it's a different tint, obviously, but okay, that's not bad. That's not a bad spread, actually, is it? Look, they've done a pretty good job there. Okay, so the whole point of a low mode is you can read a map without ruining your night vision, because generally what happens is if you have a too powerful flashlight and you flash it in your eyes like that, you lose your ability to see in the night. And it takes quite some time to get that back. I would estimate about 20 minutes to get it totally back, where you can see your surroundings in very low moonlight and things like that. So that's your low mode. It's about 3 lumens and you get 60 hours out of that. So that's pretty good from that cell. So 60 hours, you could use that as a beacon or anything. And then if we go back up, so I'll put that down because it's oversaturating everything. There's your turbo mode. So that's pretty decent. Now, have you noticed the rainbow effect to the side of this? You normally get that on the non-CRI LEDs, but I'm not going to go into that now. Okay, so there's your turbo mode. Turbo 1000 lumens, you only get half an hour with that. And then the next one is high, you get 1.5 hours, 340 lumens. That's more than, I think 340 is a sweet spot. That's probably more than enough for most tasks. And then medium goes down to 100, but you get 6 hours out of that, so that's pretty impressive. That's great. And for strobe, double click straight to strobe, and I'll put that down because it annoys people. So not bad. So we'll turn that off. And the electronic lockout mode, you just hold for 5 seconds. So you're watching for some little flashes here. See them? So now if I press the button, even if I hold it down, nothing happens. Excellent, well done. Well, it's come back on there, but obviously I was holding it down long enough for it to re-engage again. So there's back on and off, and then if we hold that down, there's your little flashes. So now if you press it, nothing happens. But obviously you can quickly get a strobe there, but if you just a single press, it's locked out. And then you hold it down to unlock it. There, back to normal. So all in all, I'm pretty impressed. I just want to check the beam pattern there. So if we put that on, that's quite interesting. I'll just check that against the M3. So obviously that's in turbo mode there, but that's quite interesting. Very nice. Okay, so instead of me blabbering on, we'll go outside and check this. Now I have checked another sample of this recently, so I've checked how the beam works and how it works outside, and I was very impressed. I was very, very impressed for the size. I'd never heard of this company. They've done a good job, good package. You get a spare O-ring, it's got built-in charging, which makes it a little bit bigger. The only thing I'm skeptical of is it really IPX8 with that? But who am I to argue? I have no reason to disbelieve them. So it's got everything you want, including a magnetic tail cap. Well done, well done. I'm going to give this an 8, because the only thing I can have a go at is this. That's the only thing I can complain about, so well done. And I'm not too sure about the reverse nature of the UI, but maybe they do that so you can quickly get a turbo, which makes sense. And it has electronic lockout, which a lot of flashlights don't, so well done, well done. So let's go outside and get some beam shots. I'm going to give this 8 out of 10. Right, one thing which I forgot to go over is the USB charging. I've explained how it works, but I will show you. Now this is the cable that they sent me, and I'll check which way up it needs to go. It looks like it needs to go that way, so I'll pop that in. It's a little bit tight there, and it's green. It blinks green when it's charging, and when it's full you get a steady green there, so I quite like that. They didn't have to add that, but they have, and that looks great. There's also a battery check mode actually, which I noticed in the manual when I was out and about there, so I'll show you that. And just for the battery check, it's just 4 quick clicks, so a bit like the BLF Q8, although the 4 clicks on there would be electronic lockout, but on here it's 1, 2, 3, 4 and 1, 2, 3. See those flashes? So it's similar to a lot of these other ones where 4 flashes would be full, 3 flashes would be about 75% full, 2 would be 50%, and 1 flash would be around 25% of the battery. So 1, 2, 3, 4 works a treat. So that's absolutely fantastic, and it doesn't use a lot of energy. On a lot of them it flashes out how much battery you've got, which is just wasting the battery. So it's nice to see that. So again, intelligent design, well done Fitorch, or Fitorch, however you pronounce it. I'm very impressed. The only thing I'm not so impressed with is the price, but if you check the description, I've included a way of getting it for a lot cheaper than you should be paying, because at that price I'm not so sure, but at the reduced price, fantastic, well done, 8 out of 10.